Hi everyone, I'm your host, Emma BURGIC.
And I'm your co-host, Jose Camacho.
Whether you're a player or a coach,
or you're just passionate about what you do and you want to be the best at it,
this is the EMAzing podcast for you. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the EMAzing Tennis Podcast. Today I have a special guest with us, Ann Grossman. She is my mentor, and she is one of the biggest reasons I decided to go back on tour. So she played 40 major Grand Slams. She twice reached the fourth round of the French Open and once at the US Open, and was ranked as high as 29 in singles and 31 in doubles. She played 40 major... We'll cut this, it doesn't matter. She has wins over 5 world number ones. She then went into coaching, and she took a girl that was 10 years old, and she made her number 1 NCAA and 118 in the world. After she retired from her professional career, she has served on the USPTA Olympic and Federation Cup committees. Currently, she's a president of WTCA Women Tennis Coaching Association. She's a certified zone coach, helping people and athletes reach their full potential. And last but not least, she's a mom of 2 amazing boys. One is an amazing golfer at Iona University, and another one is a great tennis player that's about to go to Oklahoma State University in the fall. And welcome, and thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast.
Hi, Emma, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is great. I'm really happy you're here, and we can be here in the studio too, because I was going to do a podcast with you, but I was going to do it over the Zoom. But isn't this great?
Yeah, this is amazing.
It's
beautiful.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Kana Studios here in Wellington. I just started working with them. Amazing team, amazing people. I'm just getting chills. I know that this is going to be awesome. I have more motivation because I kind of like stopped with my podcast for a while. It's just so hard to do it on your own and like do everything, but this is going to be amazing. So everybody that's in Wellington, West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, you need to check them out. Anyways, and I have just a few questions for you today, but I kind of want this to be just as natural, honestly, as possible. I know it looks super professional, but just like, we're having coffee, we should have some coffee, like you said, or some tequila. But next time, on the next podcast. Tell us, I want to know, and I'm sure the audience, they want to know your story, how you started playing tennis, where did you grow up, and all of that good stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm from Grove City, Ohio. Actually, I grew up on a farm outside of Grove City. And my dad was a hog farmer, and we had soybeans and corn. We lived on quite a few acres, 360 acres that my grandparents owned. And my dad farmed the farm, and he also did a lot of fielding with corn and soybeans. So 2,000 acres that my dad was in charge of on that side.
Wow.
So at one time we had many hogs, chickens. We had at one time 12,000 tomato plants, 3,000 strawberry plants, and I was in charge of those.
Wow.
Picking and weeding the tomatoes and strawberries plants, but always, chores on the farm.
Yeah.
So I was very, very fortunate that in the 70s that my dad, when tennis hit the scene really big with Billie Jean King, Martina Navratilova, he took the sport in college, and he loved it when he went to Ohio State University, and he took it as an elective, and he just fell in love with it. And so then when I came along, he took me to a club, and they had an amazing program called Tennis Tots, and I joined when I was 4.5 years old. And actually the first time when I stepped onto the court, I was 4 years old, and apparently I started crying. Oh. And the coach told my dad, I think you should just bring her back in 6 months when she's a little bit more mature. And
did he do that?
He did that. He listened to the coach, and I came back, and apparently I just absolutely fell in love with it. And I was just like so happy to be on the court. And my dad, I was very lucky to have an amazing first coach that made it super fun. And to this day, when I was playing, going through juniors and playing professionally, you have your ups and downs. And I would always write on a piece of paper, why I love to play tennis and why I don't. And it always came back to the basic fundamentals of how I started playing tennis when I first started. Yeah. And the coach, when we would have, it was like two other kids and me. So it was like a 3 and me with 3 kids and a coach. And if we had a great lesson, he would give us an ice cream. And I just remember that feeling of like, if we have a great lesson and we work really hard, we get an ice cream. And I just couldn't wait to go up to like the freezer where they had it at the club. That was like so special to me. And to this day, like, you always go back to like this, so the basics on why you're doing what you're doing. And so I was very lucky on that side. And it was an amazing program. I used to do Jim Fannin created Tiny Tots and Tennis Tots. We called it both. And we would do exhibitions in malls and courthouse steps. So we'd literally bring little, nets, and we would play in malls and put on little exhibitions and little clinics to promote the game of tennis. And I think by me like doing that just gave me such a love to be out in the public, to feel comfortable playing. And I think that really gave me like a step up in life and with the sport that I'm so lucky and blessed to get where I got. But that gave me an advantage. And one time I was 7 years old and I put on a halftime show for the Chicago Bulls.
Really?
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and actually he just recently told me that I was on Oprah Winfrey's first show in Chicago.
Wow.
When she was just getting started. So I don't really remember that, but apparently it happened.
It happened, yeah.
And so that's a little bit how I got started. And I used to, on the farm, I'd hit against the wall for hours and hours.
Yes, that's what you told me. So when I asked you like what's the best way to get into tennis shape, you told me find the wall and just hit on the wall, right? You said you as a kid you hit like
I think I hit at least like 3 hours every night against the wall. I started on the wall and I ended on the wall. Wow. I always got warmed up against the wall, and then I would play in the junior program or hit with my friends, and then I would go back to the wall and hit like a couple more hours. So say like 30-minute warm up and then play and then go back. So my dad was like right there with me the entire time, really working with me every day.
That's amazing. So when did it get serious? Like, how old were you, like, that your parents knew, okay, this is it, she's talented, we're going to take this, to the next level? Do you remember that?
My dad was such a perfectionist, and he was actually a livestock judge for animals, like cattle and stuff. Okay. And he would do that at, like, fairs, and he was on the livestock judging team for Ohio State University. So he had a great eye on like seeing like movement and like strokes and stuff, and he would watch other players, and that's actually how he coached me, was by reading books and just studying the game like that. He and I think that's where I get my gift of coaching, is because I have that kind of eye that I can see things that maybe other people can't see. Yeah. If you ask parents, do you see this? And they're like, no, I don't see that at all. Yeah. Like my husband, when I say that about, okay, because I'm coaching my son right now, I'll be like, oh, do you see that he's doing this? He goes, no, I don't see that at all. So some people have that eye. But I would say that like every single day, my dad we just put so much effort in just to the daily routine of practicing and putting everything into it every day. Yeah. And honestly, like I was just playing to play tennis because I didn't know that other side, right? We're just kids. We're just playing. Yeah. But I think his agenda is that he wanted me to get a scholarship to be able to go to college. And that's all he ever really told me, was like, you're playing tennis to get a college scholarship, And so like you hear like Novak Djokovic, and he's very instrumental, like in his speech that he just gave at the French Open, saying that he visualized when he was a very small kid on holding that trophy and winning these Grand Slams. But like my dad just like it was all about going to college. So like I didn't have that like dream. I never like when Wimbledon would come on the TV, I would see that, but like I never ever believed that I could play there.
Yeah.
It was like crazy.
Yeah.
So I actually got to go I played at center court at Wimbledon against Monica Seles. So that's another story on how I felt there. But like, so I felt like my dad really held me back mentally on that side.
Yeah, I can see that 100%. Yeah, I mean, but how did you, because you told me you ended up at IMG. How did you end up in IMG? Did they like invite you? Because you got full scholarship, right? From
full
Nick?
scholarship. Yes.
You're like one of the first ones, or not really?
It was, no, I was definitely was in 1982 when I went there. He did have people live in his home and on the Colony Beach. I wasn't like the very first few, but I was there when he built the academy, when it first started at the original academy where IMG is there, like where it's located. So I was definitely at the beginning, but not like the very, because they are a group that is like the very first few, which is amazing. So my grandparents lived in Florida, and when it was Christmas time, we would drive down, and because since my dad was a farmer, he could take off because it was winter time, so there was no crops or and we had somebody feed the animals, and so we went down to Florida, and he read in the paper that Nick Baltieri was starting this tennis academy. So I actually went to the Colony where he had it, and I just was like a day student, paid like a day pass, and like he saw like how good I was. And I was actually 11 in the nation in the girls 12s, and so I was top in the nation. And he offered my dad for me to come down and to live at the academy, and that's how it happened. It was all about my dad like using the resources and like reading the paper and just going for it and say, hey, let's go here. So yeah, that's how I met Nick.
Wow, that's awesome. That's amazing. Such an interesting story, like I love hearing these stories. Every tennis player has a different story, and no, this is great. So you want to add on something? Yeah,
so going back, like when you said like, how did I get to where I got like playing professionally? Well, what happened is that my dad was all about like, just playing 6 hours a day and just making me the best that he could make me, right? And all these girls, I was ranked, what was I? I was like 4 in the country in the girls 16s as a first year 16. And I said, Dad, all these girls are playing professional tournaments. He's like, no, you're not allowed to play a professional tournament. He goes, until you win a national, then you can play a pro tournament. And I'm like, okay. So when I was second year 16s, I played up in the 18s because everybody below me was playing up. So I was like, okay, I'll play up in the 18s. I'm 16 years old. I won the clay court nationals, the super nationals, which is when you win the super nationals, you get a wild card of the main draw, the U.S. Open. And then I won the international grass courts, 3 big tournaments right in a row. And then I was like, there's my wild card into the U.S. Open. So that was my first pro tournament, which is absolutely remarkable.
Wait, U.S. Open was your first pro tournament? Very first tournament. And how old were you?
I was 16.
Wow.
Yes.
How did you do?
I lost to Rafaela Reggi. And she was 18 in the world. I remember the exact court where I was. I can remember everything. Everything. I remember all the energy. And this is actually kind of a crazy story, but so I was on the USTA national team, which they pay everything for you. Yeah. And this is how tough it was for my parents and how much they sacrificed for me. But they actually, they stayed in New Jersey, and they were camping in a campground while I was playing the U.S. Open. And here I was staying in the Essex House, which is the most remarkable hotel, and then my parents so I lived such 2 different lives, which later on in my career was really kind of tricky for me, because I would go home to the farm where it was very tough. And then I was living this life of being on the pro tour, because I turned pro when I was 17, because I was top 100 in the world. I was 75 in the world, and I was I still had a year left of high school to go.
Oh my God.
Top. I'm this in the world, and I turned pro, and I went for it, and I have no regrets on doing that, because I had an amazing career. I wouldn't change it for the world. Everywhere that I've been, all over the world. Besides, playing professional, it's also the traveling that you get to do that just, you cannot pay enough money for that.
But what do you think, I'm just going to get into like deeper questions here now that you're talking about that. What was the biggest challenge being on tour? Like, yeah, you travel, you do, but like, what was the hardest part about being on tour?
The hardest part was not the playing. It was everything on the outside, because basically you're running a business all on your own. If you're really not a top player, like that has like, a big time agent that's taking care of everything for you. Well, I did have an agent, but like they wanted to take a piece of my prize money. And I was just like, you know what? I want to do this on my own. I can book my own flights. And so, so I said, listen, whatever you get me, you get 20% of my contract, right? So, but on the other side, I controlled everything.
Yeah, okay.
And I think like people don't realize that it's our own business.
Yeah.
Nobody, unless
you're the CEO of that business, of your business.
Exactly. Like here I am, 17 years old, traveling the world, and like we didn't have phones. Back in the day, we didn't have computers. We did not have computers. Wow. It was amazing. So it's just like paying bills. I'd go on the road for 3 months at a time in Europe and paying my credit card bill, and I'm traveling. Like, it's very tricky. So pretty crazy,
Yeah, that's crazy. Just to think about it, like, how do you live without a phone or a computer?
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, so that was the most,
I would say,
everything outside, like managing everything, basically.
I would say, managing everything, the ups and downs of when you win and when you lose, and how people treat you. And I think that's also the hardest. And it's just like, no matter, even to this day, the number that I became in the world is like what I am, So like, sometimes like, it was just very tough, because it's like everybody got treated differently on tour. If you were this number, oh, you got this. If you're this number, you got that. I mean, do you know what that's like mentally? Every single day, it's always changing on how you played.
Yeah.
So if you're struggling and you've had some losses, oh, you're not so important. So it's like, I feel like that is the toughest part of the tour for men and women. I mean, for sure on the women's side. I can't speak on the men's side, but for me personally, that was very challenging.
Yeah, I mean that makes. And how did you deal with that? Like, did you have somebody helping you on the mental side back then? Like, how now you're a zone coach. Like, we have these mental coaches. We have all of this, equipment and whatever. We have all of these resources to help us now with our mental, life coach, this therapy, that therapy, Back then, did you have it or no?
So actually, my dad actually died when I was 20 years old, and I was 32 in the world. And I was like knocking on the doors of like all the top players in the world. Eventually, I ended up having all these amazing wins after my dad died. But so I was very young, obviously. And let me tell you, it was not easy, like what my dad did to me and how hard he worked me and how he made me feel guilty and how he definitely verbally abused me. It's like people are like, oh, you want to go for a run? No, I don't want to go for a run, because if I did something bad on the court, I had to go run. So for me, going for a jog right now that's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah. No, it's a traumatic experience. It's like, no, I don't, because I have good memories of running.
I have no good memories.
Okay, I'm never going to ask you to go to run with me. We're not running together.
Absolutely. Like right now, like sometimes when I say I really need to run, I'm like, okay, I'll run 10 steps. I'll sprint 10 steps to get in that burst of like heart rate. But anyway, so
okay, yeah.
It is pretty amazing. So back to being on tour and like what I did. I actually worked with a guy that led me through a lot of meditations, and I did a lot of healing of getting rid of all the anger towards my father.
Oh, okay.
And so like I I think that is really what helped me, because now I just have amazing memories of my dad. Besides, like, I can say that he was verbally abusive in that, but like I literally got rid of everything that he did to me, so that I am free. And now that's when I played my best tennis, was after I released all of that energy, all that bad, negative
God,
energy.
I need that guy. Is he still alive?
I can help you.
Or you can help me. But I need to release a lot. Like,
I have the techniques to help you do that.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to work on it, because I need to, like, I feel like I'm holding back so much, like, from my past, from my childhood, and playing tennis, from early age, also with my dad, and some things that happened with my personal life that I'm still holding on to. I started this hypnotherapy. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. There's a guy here in Wellington I go to, and it's been actually pretty, like, traumatic going through it, but it's been pretty effective. I'm not gonna lie. Just, like, really, like, you close your eyes, and he's talking to you while there's this, like, music in the background, and it's like he's asking you these questions. And I had memories from the past, from the childhood, that, like, just started popping up. And I was born during the war. My first 4 years I lived in a basement while the bombs were falling around me. So of course I'm messed up in the head, because kids develop their brain mostly in the first 5 years of their life, right? I'm like, how am I even normal?
You're amazing.
Yeah, so
everything
it's like,
that you've been through.
So it's just crazy to think about it. And then this is why I feel like I need to release, and I need to go through these things first in order to be my best on the court, because I can't be my best on the court if I'm holding onto so much in my head. And then why do I get tight? Why am I insecure? Why do I start immediately, negative, guilt? Like, I have this guilt, I have this fear of failure constantly.
Same. I constantly did too.
Right? You have this fear that you're not good enough. You're never good enough. And even to, like, now you're here, and, like, I want to show off to you that I can hit that forehand good, oh my God, maybe. And it goes back in my head, that old Emma thinking, well, she's probably thinking my forehand is not good enough as, I don't know, Francesca, the girl that you coached, and she's never going to be able to make it on tour because her forehand is not strong enough. Like, I go through my head with these things. I'm like, oh my God, what is she going to think?
That you're creating a story in your own head, and that's not the story at all.
Yes.
You need to stop. Less thoughts.
It's
you're overthinking it.
I'm an overthinker in general in my life, and I'm working on that.
Yeah, you're doing amazing.
I think I'm doing so much better. And this comeback on tour, it's not just about tennis. It's so much more. It's really digging deep into myself, figuring myself out, and facing these fears that I never faced, and I want to get stronger as a person, that when I step on the court, that I just flow, and I'm enjoying, like I told you this morning, like, at the end of the day, this is what I love. This is the game that I love, but I always, like, I was just always, like, put so much pressure on myself, and fear of failure and insecurity and all this stuff that I built, that I'm like, I'm only worth as much as if I win or lose. Like, if I win, everybody loves me, like you said. If I lose,
we have to live every day.
Nobody cares about me. I'm a failure. So these are the things that, in life too, in relationships and everything.
It's like you just always feel like you're just never good enough.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, we can talk about this more. I wanna ask you some other questions. So when you, so I want to share this story here on the podcast, because Ann and I met at the Miami Open. When was it? March or April? March?
Yeah,
I don't know,
March,
something
April.
like that.
Yeah.
And now it's end of June. She was presenting at the at the Miami course. I was doing this 4-day pro course, ATP WTA. She was one of the presenters. When she was presenting, I was like all eyes and ears. I was like, okay, like I want to learn so much because, I mean, so she, like I said, she has 2 boys. And when she was around my age, they were kind of like the same age as my boys now. And you went from professional career to coaching career. Obviously, your career was way better than mine, tennis. You know, you achieved way more than I did. But when...
Only at this moment.
At this moment, I might... I mean, not
Anything
might,
is
I
possible.
will. I will.
This is, yes.
I will.
can.
I'm not saying I can. I believe I can. But I mean, I have 10 more years. So she was presenting. I was like, oh my God, I can learn so much from her. There's so much. I want to pick her brains. I want to talk to her. And I've been working before that. I've been working with this life coach and like working on myself, you know, what makes me happy. You know, doing more for myself because, you know, when you become a mom, you kind of like lose yourself.
Yeah.
So then I went up to her and I was like, okay, do you remember this or no?
Yeah, absolutely. You pulled me to the side. I finished and like we went straight to the wall.
You're like, okay.
And you're like, you've inspired me to come back and play. Do you think I can do it? I said, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you remember what else you said or no? Because I remember it.
Okay.
Because you said you will, if you have a little bit in you, a little desire somewhere in you, you need to go and do it because you can never take back the time that you have now. Mm-hmm. You said you can always go back to the life that you have now, but you can never take back this time now. Mm-hmm. And you're going to regret it for the rest of your life if you don't do it.
Yes.
And whatever that means for you, you know, you said like whatever that means for you, you know, playing a year or 2 more years, whatever, reaching that full potential, what my goal is, whatever that means for me.
Going after what you want.
Exactly. And you said you will have a peace of mind going to bed every night.
Absolutely.
So because I asked you a question, I was like, what is the one thing that you would tell to your younger self? Because I'm about to go and live your life, you know, like coach, you know. Well, I wasn't planning to be a tour coach because you were a tour coach for a while too. You know, you traveled. So
that was when I like had kids.
Exactly.
Like I developed Francesca while I was a mom.
So how was that? Like, how was that transition? How long were you on tour? Because I'm about to go on tour and travel, right? And I have 2 little boys. How old were your boys when you were traveling, like with her?
Oh, with Francesca? Let's see. I think I started, like, she played the French Open Juniors, and I started traveling with her then. And then she went to college. So I had a couple years off. So let's see. Ty, I think, was her friend. She won. I'm really bad with dates.
So I don't know how to. So how old was Ty?
Ty was, I think he was about 12 years old. Okay. He was 12 years old because he went to Saddlebrook Academy.
Oh, okay.
And then I felt free that I could go and travel with him.
Okay.
And Fletcher was already they're 4 years apart. So Fletcher was 16.
Okay.
So then I felt like he was driving. He was very independent. I made him so independent with his golf, you know, that he was a world-class decision maker then. Like, he was in charge of doing his own practicing and finding his own way with his path and what he wanted for golf. So that's different than tennis, whereas tennis, you got to be there feeding balls. You know, whereas golf, he can go to the range and he can practice 9 hours by himself. Yeah. So it's very different. So I felt safe to, like, carry on and do this with Francesca. Okay. So Ty was 12 because then, Ty would come to some Grand Slams. Like, he would practice with her, you know, during Wimbledon qualifying. We would do 2-on-1s when he was really young. Yeah, like 12 years old. He traveled with us. So
that's great. And how, like, this is also a big question. So you raised these 2 amazing boys. Great job. That's, I mean,
still in a process.
I'm sure it's always gonna be. So How did you decide, like, which one is going to play golf, which one is going to play tennis, or they decided? How was that? I'm curious.
Yeah. Okay, so my oldest son, when he was 6 years old, we found out that he had a hereditary spherocytosis. So he had an enlarged spleen. And basically his hemoglobin was very low. Like he was always, all of a sudden he came home with jaundiced eyes.
How old was he when
he was 6 years old.
6
years old when, like, I don't know what happened. Like all of a sudden the school called us and they said something's wrong with Fletcher. His eyes are really yellow, and we took him to Denver Children's Hospital, and they're like, he has hereditary spherocytosis. So he was always peeing blood. So he just you have less oxygen. Like his hemoglobin is really low. Like ours is at like 17.5, and his was like at like a 6.
Wow.
Okay, so to play, and also it was enlarged, his spleen.
Oh.
So he couldn't play contact sports.
Okay.
But he had already loved golf since he was 2 years old. He was already hitting balls.
Wow.
But he could play other sports and he did, but like he just always had this passion for golf. And I always told my kids, you have to do what you love to do to be great at it.
Yeah. And
that's always what I've completely emphasized. So for Fletcher, that was easy because he played baseball, he played soccer, but his thing was always golf. Okay. So and he started so young. And then Ty was playing actually 3 other sports. Tennis was not even on his radar at all. And one time we were in Hilton Head for a golf tournament with my son, and I was like, Ty, we're here at it was Billy's the Stern Smith Tennis Academy, and it was where we used to play the Family Circle Cup, which is now the Charleston event. And I said, will you please hit with me on stadium court? Because like he could get out and hit the ball because he's pretty athletic. And like I begged him. And I go out there, and I remember Stan Smith and Jolene Watanabe coming up to me, and they're like, Ann, he's got some talent. Like, he's good. I go, he doesn't play tennis at all. Like, he's playing football, year-round swimming, and lacrosse. And so then when they said that to me, I was like, oh, Ty, you know?
What do you think?
Yeah. And then so when I brought him home, we would hit in the street with like a green dot ball. And like, that's how I practiced with him, because I was working at a country club at that time. And that was my time spending with him in the road. And that's how actually he started playing tennis.
And he fell in love with it?
Yeah, he loved it. And then we moved down to Florida, and I remember going, Ty, you need to stick with lacrosse. Like, keep it going. No, Mom, I need to focus everything into tennis now. So he was 10 years old, really, when he really started taking tennis seriously.
That's great. I mean, you chose really 2 expensive sports.
I know.
God.
But, you know, they're amazing lifetime sports.
Yeah.
And you know, they could always have this career no matter what happens in their life. And I think that's what I kind of like thought about, because this is look what tennis has given me.
Yeah.
And, you know, my husband would always say that. He went to Michigan. He was actually an Olympic swimmer, swam on the 1996 Olympic swim team. And I used to say, I didn't go to college. I don't have a degree. He goes, yeah, but you traveled the world, Ann. He goes, I would take yours over mine.
Yes, 100%.
Because he didn't make any money.
100%.
So anyway.
No question about that. I mean, I chose the college route because my parents were also like, you know, just do the college because, you know, it's safer, you know, you need to school. And then I'm like, I mean, I'm not going to say I wish I didn't, but I wish I didn't, you know, like I wish I played, because those were like the best years where I played the best. Yes. And college tennis burns you out.
Yeah, I mean,
you practice so much and you play so much.
On what like my oldest son went through. He started he was at Florida State on a scholarship, and he transferred last year to Iona University. That is a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, we will talk about that. Yeah, it's insane. Oh my God, I can talk so much about that, but we'll talk about that.
Yes.
Let's go quickly. How did you get into WTCA, Women Tennis Coaching Association?
Sarah Stone actually approached me, and she was coaching Alexa Glatch, and she goes, "Hey, Ann, I have this idea about this association that I'd like to create, WTCA, Women's Tennis Coaches Association. Would you like to come along and do this with me?" And I didn't know Sarah Stone at all. She was from Australia, but she wanted me to help her coach Alexa, and we just kind of like built a friendship. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? Like, I want to do something else. Like, besides just because being a mom and a coach. Like I'm always up for like a new challenge in my life. Of course. I'm not the kind of girl that just likes to sit on the couch and eat, eat like I do love chips. I do love all the junk food.
Same. Like, okay. I love to snack on it.
Yeah, it's just like the crunch when you're having like Doritos or something. I don't know. I have like some like crazy addiction with that. but anyway, I can't just sit on the couch. I just actually recently started watching like Netflix shows. You could ask my husband right now and call him and be like, how many, what does Ann watch? And he'd be like, she doesn't watch anything, because my mind would always be working on what I can be achieving, how I need to be better on the court, being a better coach.
Same. Yeah. My ex-husband would every night watch Netflix, and I never could watch Netflix. I'm literally like like I need to do something. Even if I like sit down and watch, I'm like on my phone, like you said, researching something, doing something. I feel like I can improve in some aspect in my life, and it's wasting my time watching, unless it's something educational, right? Like if it's something educational, I can learn from it, right? Otherwise, just watching. Oh my God! The other night, I was like, I wanted to just relax. Like, what do I do for relaxing? I'm like, okay, let me turn on a movie, right? So I laid out, I put a big veggie straw bag from Costco and some dark chocolate covered almonds. And that was my, like, my night. And I watched a movie, and I was like, Emma, you can focus and you can finish a movie. It was like something it's about how Michael Jordan signed with Nike. Oh, yeah. It was a pretty interesting story,
That is an amazing story, and that's educational too.
Exactly,
right?
and I wanted to know. But like I was losing focus so much. I'm like, I need to write a message this. I need to answer this email. I need to do this. I literally can't. And then last 30 minutes, I was like, oh my God, there's 30 more minutes.
What did I just watch? Right?
So I stood up.
Forget what you just watched.
Exactly. I stood up and I was cleaning the kitchen while 30 minutes were going.
I completely understand.
Oh my God.
I'm like, I guess I shouldn't tell you my age, but you can like look it up on Wikipedia. I'm 52 years old. It's taken me this long to watch anything. And do you know what? I stayed up till 3 a.m. the night before last night watching Madam Secretary. I've just been like watching all of Madam Secretary. Like I'm on fire.
I had some shows which one? There's this good one. It's called Sex Life. No, I'm serious. But it's not just about sex. It's about relationships. Right? Okay. And it's pretty interesting. I think you're gonna like this one too. Look at it, it's on Netflix. Oh my God. Anyways, this is going like completely off tennis topic right now. But I just want to close this out with, and we have to do another podcast when you come down because I have so many more questions for you. But I want it to be short and sweet and shorter episodes. I want you to wait. I have 3 questions.
Because people don't have the attention span they used to have, so you gotta keep it short and sweet.
Last 3 questions. Do you like reading books?
I actually have just been able to
or listen to audiobooks.
I've just I like to read them because I want to like try to comprehend them. Like that was my weakness when I was younger. I could never really comprehend what I was reading. So I'm really working on this. I don't want to listen to an audiobook because I want my vocabulary to get stronger by reading as well. Okay. And comprehending.
That makes sense. So is there some book lately that you've read that you would recommend?
I'm in the middle of Why We Sleep. I just started that.
Okay. 2 more questions. One is, what would be your biggest advice for an upcoming professional female tennis player, aka myself?
My biggest advice for you.
One advice. If you could pick one thing for me right now on top, I don't know, it can be tennis-wise, it can be mentally, it can be anything. Okay. One thing. Just one.
That you need to act like you're number one in the world. You need to be a world-class decision maker. That's the way you need to live right now. That you're number one in the world and you're a world-class decision maker.
Good. That's great. I'm going to start right now.
And having your blueprint.
Yeah.
The blueprint for what you want in your life, so that you have your map on where you're going and how to get there.
Okay, and the final question is, how do you define success?
Defining success. That's a really tough one, Emma.
It is.
Thanks for ending on the
Life is
toughest
tough.
one. I really appreciate that.
Life is tough.
Defining success, I think for me, is when I can go to bed at night and know that I gave it my all. I think like when I was a player, like obviously everything is about you. You're doing the best you can, you know, but then when you like hit other part of your life and then you have children, you know, you're maybe you're a teacher, you're coaching, whatever you're doing, whatever job it is, like I always would go to bed at night, like knowing that I could sleep and that I gave it my all that day. And I did the best I could.
Yeah.
And that, you know, I just held nothing back.
Yeah.
I think that to me is like success.
I like that. Everybody defines success completely differently. And that is for you. I love that. Great. One more thing I just want to mention at the end. Your San Diego conference, which is when?
It is August 5th and 6th.
August 5th and 6th, San Diego.
It's being held at the girls' 16s and 18s Super Nationals.
Okay.
The first day is at Coronado Tennis Club.
Okay.
And then the second day is at Barnes Tennis Center.
Okay.
And I just think, you know, we try to give out education on working on coaching a female player, building the female athlete. And I think not only is it for coaches to come to, but I think the most important is educating parents on how they can become a better parent for their child. Because really, they're the one that is leading.
Yes.
They're paying the
Yes.
bills. They're
Yes.
leading the child.
Yes.
Okay, so I think like it's always, people are always saying, oh, the coach. The kid is what goes home to
Yeah.
the parent.
Yeah.
They're listening to the parents. That's why I really try not to talk that much at home.
Yeah.
Like with my kids about certain specific things of their sports. Because you know what? I think they're actually smarter than me. Our children are smarter than us.
Yeah, I agree. My
So
3-year-old is smarter than me right
yeah, so
No, I'm
it's just like
serious.
so not only is it for coaches to come,
now. No, it's important
it's
for
for
parents.
the parents. For parents
Yes.
to come. And
Yes.
I really would love to see more parents coming to our conferences and being life learners. They need to be life learners. It was just like my dad. That's why he was amazing.
Yeah.
Is that he was constantly reading books, nonstop, Vic Braden books, all the time. And to this day, Vic Braden has his fundamentals and his techniques
Yeah.
for teaching is still off the charts.
No,
So, and then he was always like, you know, bettering himself by watching and learning.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, that's on the parents because they always want to blame the coach.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100% because at the end, parent is the decision maker in the
They're paying the
kids.
bills.
Exactly.
They're
So,
controlling everything.
everything. Yeah.
Until that child is supporting themselves and paying everything for themselves.
Yeah. So anyways, WTCA San Diego, August 6th.
5th and 6th.
5th and 6th.
And then you can go to our website, WTCAtennis.org.
Okay.
We're a nonprofit organization, 5013C.
Good. Great. Well, this was amazing. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to have you next time you come down. We're going
Thank
to
you so much
continue
for
because
having
we can have. And then we'll bring either tequila or coffee
Okay.
too. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
it. Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you,
me.
Ann.
And you're doing an amazing job. I'm really so impressed by how you're just putting like full steam ahead and going for it and doing what you want and what you love. That's the biggest thing. You're doing what you love. You
Exactly.
love it.
Sky's the limit.
Absolutely.
We rushed here from tennis
you're
to this. From here, I have to go coach, and but I love it. When, like you said, when you love what you do,
you don't get tired.
Nope. Oh, I mean, I am a little tired. I'm not gonna lie, but
it's a good tired.
It's a good
That's
tired.
A good tired.
It's that when you go to bed and you're like, oh my God, this feels good. Like you said, I gave it all.
You crushed it.
Love it.
You're crushing it.
We are crushing it. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching and supporting. Please subscribe and blah, 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 blah. Bye. Thank you so much for supporting and listening to our podcast. Make sure to follow us on social media.
And be sure to listen to next week's episode of the EMAzing Tennis Podcast.